hi again, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Monsters OT, presented by Century Federal Credit Union, only here on Rock Sports. Tony Brown here with you, going to be joined by Brad Thiessen in just a moment, but we've got a big show for you coming up here. We're going to hear from Monsters coaches during our Monsters Mic Check segment, learn a little more about the captain, Brendan Gaunce. We'll also have a Monsters Community Spotlight featuring a recent Girls Grow the Game street hockey clinic, and of course, we'll wrap it up with Monsters memories. But as we always do, let's begin the show with headlines. Brad Thiessen joins us now. And Thies, I thought on headlines today we begin with a recent series. The Monsters played in Chicago against the Chicago Wolves, and that's a team that's returned a ton of players from last year to this year, right in the thick of things in the Central Division standings. And the Monsters hit the road on the 15th and 16th of November. Let's start with that game on Saturday, the 15th. Another tight-checking game, another pretty low-scoring game, kind of a goaltender battle. Ended up a 3-2 victory for the Chicago Wolves, but as has been the case recently, Brendan Gaunce, the captain, really sort of sparking the club offensively, and he got the scoring started in Cleveland's column in the second period.
Yeah, it was a game that has kind of been a story for the Monster season so far. A lot of shots on net, not a lot of goals, and ending up on the wrong side of a one-goal loss. But 37 shots on net. Caden Primo, obviously a real strong American League goalie, was able to hold the fort, but you see a real nice goal coming up here for Guillaume Richard. Short-handed, not a place that you normally see him in front of the net.
Yeah, how about that move? Look at that. He admitted he surprised even himself with that sort of a finish there. But a huge goal in the game. Gave Cleveland a chance, but you see only a minute 22 was left on the clock when he scored, and unfortunately the Monsters could not tie the game and force OT. But it gives you a little peek at the just insane skill level he's got. Let's go ahead to the next night as the Monsters were sparked by a guy who's trying to make a push to become a lineup regular, Justin Pearson. Look at that finish right there. Gave the Monsters a 1-0 lead.
Yeah, Justin Pearson, a guy at the beginning of this season who's just biding his time, working really hard in practice, waiting for his opportunities to play. And now that he's been playing, he's been taking advantage of it. A guy that you can put anywhere in the lineup, and great to see him get rewarded with a goal there.
Yeah, he's on a pro tryout contract right now. We'll see if he can earn himself an AHL deal as the season goes along. And then this was a really nice finish, too. Again, time winding down in the third, down by a goal, and it's Roman Ashan. But take a look at Jack Williams here. He just kind of lets that puck go through, and it allows Roman to score this big goal, which ultimately pushed the game to overtime.
Yeah, Jack was the one who got that puck in deep, started the forecheck, and was able to get a little touch on it there to set Roman up.
And then right there was a huge save for Zach Sawchenko after a miscue on the offensive blue line. The Monsters take that save, carry the puck into the offensive zone, and Luca Pinelli finishes the sentence with a 3-2 OT game-winning goal.
As so often happens in 3-on-3, a big save at one end and it leads to a goal at the other end, and Zach Sawchenko came out big with the biggest save of the game there.
Yeah, biggest save of the game, definitely the biggest save of his season. I thought this game was his best of the season so far, too. I think it was 25 saves from him on 27 shots faced, but he really was outstanding, and getting a chance to play a little more regularly, it's really helping him.
Yeah, he's really, every game he's gotten a lot better this year, and now he's 2-0-2 on the year, giving the team a chance every time he's been in there, which as a goalie, that's your goal, to give the team a chance to win.
All right, so at the time of this taping, here are the North Division standings. Let's take a look there at how the Monsters stack up. The Laval Rocket, 10-5-0. They're pacing the division, tied in the point column with second place Rochester at 10-6. You got Syracuse, who started out of the gate super hot. They've fallen back just a tiny little bit. And then Belleville off to a good start. Toronto, Cleveland. Man, every time I look at the standings, I'm reminded that with respect to Utica, really any one of those top 6 teams, even the Comets, can get right back into this. This is a deep and challenging North Division yet again.
Yeah, as usual, like you said, this North Division always really produces strong teams, and this year is no different. Cleveland, obviously, with the 4 overtime shootout losses, so you take those points. You need them later on in the year, but you don't want to give up too many of those.
For sure. We've talked ad nauseum with the coaching staff just about staying the course at the beginning of the season here, Thies. You might not be at the shooting percentage you want to be at right now. But the Monsters doing so many good things, and all that stuff's going to come if you don't panic, you don't abandon the principles you're instilling at the start of the year.
Yeah, like you said, at the beginning of the season, it's all about building that foundation, establishing what you're going to be as a team. And I think the Monsters have done a good job of that. Strong defensively, possessing the puck a lot in the offensive zone. Right now the goals haven't come, but they'll start to find their way in the back of the net.
And leaning on some great goaltending, too, and this guy has something to do with that. Well, the Monsters right now, as we'll turn our focus on headlines back to the Cleveland dressing room, they are dealing with some injuries. They're beginning to mount in the forward group specifically here. So as we take a look, James Malatesta unable to go for the second game in Chicago there, and you got 4 other forwards on the shelf at the moment, too. Riley Bezo, Rylan Mosley, Mikhail Putia, Max McHugh. It's creating some opportunities for some guys we're going to talk about in a second here, but injury problems, it's a fact of life in any league, and in the American League, certainly no exception. The Monsters going through it a bit here. Maybe not the worst thing to hit one of these patches early in the season, get everybody involved.
Yeah, for sure, and it gives guys opportunities that maybe they weren't getting earlier on in the year, and a real chance for them to showcase themselves and show the coaching staff that when guys do come back and are healthy, they deserve those spots to stay where they are.
Yeah, so we'll see. We'll monitor that situation going forward with the injuries, but big ups to Tom Borden, Seth Campbell, the Monsters athletic trainers, and of course the entire Monsters medical team for getting those guys that are out of the lineup back into the lineup just as soon as possible. Moving on headlines, time to look at some fresh faces. It's, as Vogue says, probably about 55 times a year. It's the League of Opportunity here in the AHL, and it's true. When guys go down, other guys get to step in. And let's take a look at Chong-Min Lee and Tate Singleton, Brad, a couple of guys who have been around a little bit. Lee signed an AHL deal. He's been playing in ECHL Bloomington the last season plus here. Good numbers in the Coast, and he got a couple appearances in Chicago. You can see what he brings to the table, a hard worker, responsible guy. And this is notable, the first ever South Korean native to sign an AHL contract. Not the first to play in the league, but the first to sign an AHL deal, and there's a long tradition of Korean players here in Cleveland, back in the IHL with Richard Park and Jim Pake, and now Chong-Min Lee, a fan favorite in Bloomington, and really making taking as much advantage of this chance as a person could possibly take.
Yeah, for sure. Awesome opportunity for him. First games in the American League after doing a really nice job in the East Coast League. A guy with a lot of speed, a lot of skill, and someone that I know the coaching staff is looking forward to seeing play at this level.
Yeah, and so not just Chong-Min Lee, but also Tate Singleton. Now, he's a guy with a little bit of a foundation with the Monsters. He was with the team in training camp, former Ohio State Buckeye, playing on a PTO right now. But similarly to Lee, you see his production at the ECHL level, and he plays with a little edge, too. For a smaller guy, he likes to get in the corners.
Yeah, he's not afraid to get in those corners, and he's a smaller, skilled, fast forward. Gets in on the forecheck and creates some havoc. So another guy that's earned the opportunity to play games here in Cleveland.
Yeah, and he had a regular shift in both games in Chicago, for sure, making an impact to the best of his ability. All right, let's wrap up headlines now with a look at the Cleveland Barons jerseys, which were recently revealed to Monster fans as the Monsters this year, alongside the AHL, celebrating the league's 90th anniversary, and these throwbacks look great. You see, Ole took the teeth out for that one there, but this is great stuff. I mean, it harkens back to a glorious era of hockey in this city, and I think these look really cool.
Yeah, they're really, really sharp jerseys. The Monsters organization has always done a great job with these throwback weekends and uniforms, and these Barons ones are no different. Really, really look good, and the guys look good showing them off here.
Yeah, and so there will be 3 times this season in which the Monsters will wear these at Rocket Arena. Of course, November 20th, 22nd against Hershey, and then Monday, December the 29th against the Rochester Americans. Of course, all 3 of those games are going to be on Rock Sports, but we encourage you guys to get tickets while you still can to the Cleveland Barons nights that you would like to attend at clevelandmonsters.com. Moving on, time now for our Monsters Mic Check segment. Let's hear from a couple of Monsters coaches, beginning with head coach Trent Vogelhuber. Spoke to him back on the 15th of November prior to that first game in Chicago, just about Justin Pearson and the way he's making his case. I want to be a part of this team full time going forward.
That's just the way the American League shapes itself out early in the season. Sometimes, you got young players and opportunities, kind of the pecking order that you arrive in Cleveland out of camp. It stays that way for a little bit, and then over time, people that deserve to play a little bit more play, and that's my job to put the right guys on the ice. So he's pushed, and we're excited to have him in again tonight.
Yeah, Justin Pearson, Brad, a guy well known to Monster fans and in the coaches' room here, just has the smarts, has the work ethic, coming off, last season, the offseason prior, significant surgery, but he looks like his old self again. He's as motivated as a guy can be.
Yeah, he was a huge part of that Monsters playoff run a couple of years ago with that line with Josh Dunn and Alex Whalen. It was such a dominating line, and last year just didn't have that same step, I think, in his game. With that surgery in the offseason. So I think this year he's had a full offseason to train and get himself back up to speed, and this year he looks great.
Well, the following day, we spoke not to Vogelhuber, but to Monsters associate coach Chris Bergeron prior to the game in Chicago. That was on the 16th of November. We talked to him about Brendan Gaunce, a guy that, despite the Monsters' scoring struggles in the beginning of the season, seems to have an outsized influence and role, and that includes productivity.
He's a guy that plays in every situation, as we know, and everybody knows our team, especially up front, is banged up, and you got Luka called up, and Gauncer has been that, kind of that stabilizing factor for us, and today will be no different. We're going to need him to eat the minutes, and they're important minutes, and like I say, it's not just 5-on-5. It's against the other team's top people. It's 4-on-5. It's 5-on-4. But he's right. This is a veteran guy, and a guy in my short time with him that wraps his arms around those opportunities and takes full advantage.
Yeah, the versatility is just super noticeable with Gaunce. He didn't mention the faceoff circle there, but another place where he plays a key role on this team. And so for many reasons, it's just a breath of fresh air having Gauncer this year.
Yeah, it's great having the captain back in the lineup for the Monsters, and someone that, like you said, can be used in all situations. With the Monsters struggling offensively this year, he's a guy that really wants to take on more of that lead role there, and he's been doing that lately.
Well, appropriate we talked about Brendan Gaunce, because after a short break, when we come back, we're going to learn more about the Monsters' one-time and current captain. That's right after this on Monsters OT, presented by Century Federal Credit Union. You're watching Rock Sports. Welcome back to Monsters OT, presented by Century Federal Credit Union here on Rock Sports. Tony Brown back with you. We're going to hear plenty more from Brad Thiessen in a bit. But right now on the show, we wanted to delve a little bit deeper into the captain of this team, Brendan Gaunce. He was with the Monsters for a good chunk of his career, then left the organization last year. He played with the Minnesota Wild and the Iowa Wild, but back this season. And our own Andy Jardy put together a great feature about Gaunce and his influence on this team. Monsters fans and coaches were elated this summer at the news that former captain Brendan Gaunce was headed back to Cleveland after a season in the Minnesota Wild organization. But no one was more fired up than the man himself.
Yeah, it was exciting for my wife and I. It's important. My wife's having a kid. We're having a kid in January, so it's really important for us to be somewhere where we're comfortable, a little bit closer to home. And lucky enough, it was back here where we know pretty much everywhere we want to go, and we know our day-to-day, which makes things easy.
A veteran of nearly 400 AHL games and almost 200 more at the NHL level, Gaunce has been around, and he knows one of the things that sets Cleveland apart is its coaching staff.
Once you move around and you go to different places and you see different things, guys are very fortunate with what they have here. The staff from head to toe is great. They're approachable. It's easy to play for. And I'm sure it's exciting for the guys just like it is for the coaches.
Regarding the Monsters on the ice this year, Gaunce knows while the personnel has changed, the team's approach remains consistent.
It's actually a lot of new guys from even 2 years ago, so I'm getting to know them, and we know how we're going to play. I think Vogie has a system he wants to be known for, and that's just how we're going to have to try and play.
Wearing the captain's C again this year, Gaunce's understanding of leadership has evolved at this stage of his career.
Be an ear to talk to, work hard every day, try and show them that for a lot of young guys, I think this league is trying to be a stepping stone to the NHL, but at the same time, you have to do something in this league first, and I think that passes a lot of guys by pretty quickly, and I think it's just allowing them to see that the AHL is a tough league to play in. It's a tough league to win in, and you have to transition from it being a hobby to work pretty quickly. And I think just being able to still play and still have fun with it at my age, and sound like I'm old, but I'm not that old. But no, it's exciting.
Well, good stuff. And again, thank you to Andy Jardy for putting that together. Great to have Brendan Gaunce back, wearing the C where he belongs here in Cleveland. Well, before we take another quick break here, want to remind you guys you can catch the Monsters all season long on Rock Sports. And this year we've got a club record 26 games on the schedule. Next up, it's the return of franchise icon Trey Fix-Wolansky and his new club, the Hartford Wolfpack. They're invading Rocket Arena on Black Friday. That's November the 28th, and then the next day, too, on the 29th. Both games at 7 o'clock. Head to clevelandmonsters.com for the full schedule and check out all the information on our audio schedule as well on our flagship station, Sports Radio 99.1 on WTAM 1100 and plenty more. Lots more show coming up. We'll take a quick break. When we return, it's our Monsters Community Spotlight, and we'll wrap things up, too, with our Monsters Memories segment. Monsters OT continues next. This is Rock Sports. Welcome back, everyone, on Monsters OT, presented by our friends at Century Federal Credit Union, only here on Rock Sports. Tony Brown back with you. Time now for our Monsters Community Spotlight. You guys might remember back in early November, the Monsters and Rocket Arena were able to host Team USA and Team Canada, the two best women's hockey teams on planet Earth, for the Rivalry Series, and it was a great chance to get Team USA alongside Monsters players Luca Del Bel Belluz and Hunter McCown into the community as they held a Girls Grow the Game floor hockey clinic with over 60 students from CMSD at the Gunning Rec Center in Brooklyn. Let's take a look at an event that really made an impact on these young hockey players. Hey guys, we're here and excited to be growing the game of hockey in Northeast Ohio. We're at a rec center in Brooklyn with girls from the Cleveland Metropolitan School District. Got a couple of Monsters players, even some players from Team USA here to help teach these girls about the game of hockey. So let's take a closer look.
In the beginning, we were just kind of working on some stick handling, some shooting, and then obviously just running with the ball. And then in the game, kind of trying to teach them how to, get to the net, but also kind of stay a little spread out. It's just some passing and strategy, so a lot of different things coming at them. So I remember playing ball hockey in high school and middle school. It was always like my favorite unit, so I hope that, they kind of had the same experience here today.
Oh, coach!
Obviously, their energy is it's off the charts, and for them to take an interest even for a day in hockey and take an interest in us, it was fun. Really special opportunity, and just for them to get to see some role models like that, that's pretty rare, I think, and so hopefully it was a cool experience for them, and we enjoyed it too.
Get the ball as close to the net as possible.
Well, lots of thank yous to hand out after a great event. We want to say thanks to representatives from Team USA for being here. Also, Monsters players Hunter McCown and Luca Del Bel Belluz. Thanks to the students from CMSD for learning about hockey today. And also, thanks to our hosts here at the Gunning Rec Center in Brooklyn. If you want to learn more about how the Monsters are growing the game of hockey across Northeast Ohio, visit us online at clevelandmonsters.com. Back to wrap up another episode of Monsters OT, presented by Century Federal Credit Union here on Rock Sports. Back with Brad Thiessen. I'm Tony Brown. It's time for our Monsters Memory segment, Tease, and this time something special here. You guys, if you know the Monsters promotional calendar, you're probably looking forward to Lake Erie Monsters Weekend at the end of January. And as part of that commemoration and celebration of the team's Calder Cup Championship from 2016, Brad, we've been reaching out to members of that team, the coaching staff, players, and compiling some interviews that we're going to put into a really cool piece, which will be presented by the Cleveland Museum of Natural History. But one of those guys was our old buddy Toby Peterson. Before we hear from him, let's remind everyone he was an assistant coach on that team. Of course, had a great National Hockey League playing career, but Toby, one of the greatest guys you'll meet. He's now the head coach of the Texas Stars down in Austin, so enjoying that nice weather there. But Toby's the best. This is going to be fun, right?
Yeah, he's a great coach, really smart hockey mind. He ran the power play, and someone who had a lot of great ideas running the power play. Still had the skill as a coach, going up against me in some 3-on-3 games, scored a few goals, but great to see him again here.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's take a look. This is head coach of the Texas Stars, Toby Peterson, weighing in on the veteran core on that championship team and also the coaching staff.
The veterans on that team were pivotal because we had a good mix of youth and veterans, and those guys were huge in bringing the development along for the young guys that ended up contributing some big time plays and had big roles as we went down the stretch. So Ryan Craig and Jamie Cyphers, Trent Vogelhuber, all those guys, Steve McCarthy, they did a great job. And it's not a surprise when you see how many of those guys are still in the game and coaching in pretty high positions.
What set the coaching staff apart in your guys' ability to bring out the team's potential?
A lot of that goes to Jared Bednar. He's a player's coach. Guys love playing for him. They're willing to run through a wall, skate through a wall to please him and to do what was asked of them as players. And I think a lot of the credit goes to Jared. But Nolan Pratt does a great job with the D, continues to do so today with the Avalanche. And guys want to play for those guys. And with myself, I was kind of the new guy in town, trying to keep things light and have a little bit of the glue as a former player or recently retired player. So, but a lot of the credit obviously goes to Jared Bednar.
Look at Toby commenting on his own role there. I love that. Thanks to Toby Peterson and to John Peterson, the voice of the Stars, for helping us get that footage. No relation, by the way, with those two, but all the best to Toby, and look forward to that great piece which will come up at the end of January as we celebrate the Calder Cup Championship. It's kind of fun to get the band back together, isn't it, Brad?
Yeah, it's been fun hearing from different guys and going back and thinking about all those good memories from 10 years ago.
10 years goes quick. Well, that's it for another edition of Monsters OT. We've got a lot of thank yous to hand out today. First and foremost, to Leo Simone and Jeremy Hawks, as well as the rest of our outstanding crew, specifically our camera operators, Robert and Cecil, the best in the business. Want to thank Brad Thiessen, of course, and Century Federal Credit Union. I'm Tony Brown. Until next time, thanks for watching Monsters OT. We'll see you on Rock Sports.